It has been an amazing thing. I have never been so amazed with the quality of the number of people, the type of people who attended. Above all, the organization, the creation of the organization of this institution, in record time, has done something which many of us have tried to do many years and did not succeed. Which raises the question, how was it possible? I think it's a combination of a number of factors. First of all, the people who did it, including yourself, have been people who loved each other, who respect each other, and above all, they are dedicated to a higher cause, justice and democracy in their country, Eritrea. There have been many outstanding papers. There have been some very important recommendations, including one from Brother Haile Mugarios, my friend Haile, who proposed certain organizational preparedness for what used to be called a soft landing. When change comes, we have to be prepared for it. There are also other papers to the same effect. Now, I think that one of the most important contributions was from a young man who said, we have to use the Constitution as a mobilizing factor. Whether we agree with it or not, we have to use it as a uniting and mobilizing factor, and we should be guardians. We should have people who will be guardians of the Constitution. Not only because they value the content of the Constitution, but also because symbolically and actually it can act as a uniting factor, uniting different factions of our diaspora movement. Now, the same person also said there has to be an entity chosen for their expertise, for their wisdom, people without any political ambition for themselves, but for an ambition for their country. And these people should call them the guardians of the Constitution. The thing is, when the Constitution is then invoked and the entity creates an interim government, the thing is, the Constitution will be used to enable the interim government to organize elections, and when the people elect their legitimate representatives, they can either accept the Constitution, use it, amend it, or even throw it away. It's up to them. They are the people's representatives. But they have to be a guardian of this Constitution. And I think that is probably the best idea that came out of this meeting. My message as an elder, as an old fighter, is that the time is now to unite. We cannot afford to waste any time. The time is now. It is zero hour for us to get together and push for change in our country, in our beloved country, which has been betrayed. And I think that one of the results of this conference was to convince people that there has to be an entity to enable this process to go to the conclusion.
You know, I think that it was a really interesting conference to me on a number of levels. I had been to a number of conferences over the years, and I stopped going because they all had the same discussions over and over again, the same splits over sectarian issues of ethnicity, region, religion, politics, and particularly the political parties. And I didn't see that here. I think that what I saw instead was an honest attempt at inclusion. It fell down in a number of respects. The balance of people was weighted toward older men, mostly Tigrinya speakers. But I heard in people's discussions an honest attempt to try to figure that out and how to get beyond it. And I think the self-critical aspect to this was very inspiring and reassuring and different. And I think the moment we're in is a very different one than I remember, as I mentioned earlier, since 1991, when people have rekindled hope that seemed long buried. Their expectations of change since the peace declaration, as fuzzy as it is, are high inside Eritrea and out. The impatience with the regime over this has been growing steadily since last July, with no response from their side about changes that would follow the peace. There is, in fact, a worrisome indication of mobilization in Eritrea now around the potential threat from Tigray, which I think is manufactured in order to keep people in the state of emergency that they've been in and to justify continuing national service. I don't think people will put up with that indefinitely. The problem is that up until now, when people have been disillusioned and dissatisfied, they've responded by leaving. At some point, especially with the examples of Sudan and Ethiopia right next door, that's going to change, and things in Eritrea will change. What was exciting about this conference was, with difficulties at times, it focused on what needs to happen when change comes in Eritrea. And there was some effort to think far in the future, 5-10 years from now, about what the economy, the structure of the justice system, the rule of law, and so on would look like. But in the middle of that, there was, I think, an effort to continually pull people back and say, what's next? What do we need to do to get there, and what can we do to help that happen? And the practicality of that, the dynamic commitment to make a difference in the way things develop, I think was very exciting.
I came to attend the conference organized by Focus Eritrea and its partners, the theme of which is building democracy in Eritrea. We discussed a number of issues of paramount importance to Eritrea since yesterday and today, addressing critical issues, critical challenges of how to prepare ourselves, the nation, the people of Eritrea, including our diaspora communities, for the forthcoming transitional period of Eritrea. And the issues that we discussed included topics related to the rule of law, the national economy, issues of inclusiveness in its different dimensions. And I really enjoyed the experience. There were many presentations, interventions made by Eritreans coming from different backgrounds. And it was really very an exciting experience and a very timely and important initiative. Of course, it didn't involve only Eritreans. There were also friends of Eritrea, long-time supporters of our cause for democratization. So this was the essence of the 2 days intensive discussions and interactions we have had. Perhaps the first important point is, I guess, timing. Timing in the sense that it's all the indicators coming from Eritrea, from our own diaspora communities and the activities, the region itself, the Horn of Africa, the latest rapprochement between Eritrea and Ethiopia, are telling us something needs to be done by way of preparing ourselves for the eventual political transition that should happen in Eritrea. Anything can happen today or tomorrow or the day after, and if we do not do our assignments, our homeworks properly now, it's going to be extremely challenging. So in this sense, I consider this initiative as a timely initiative. Besides, relatively speaking, with the shortcomings that we saw, and maybe I can maybe briefly explain that, but I consider this initiative also as somehow participatory and inclusive. At least we have seen people from different backgrounds, different political, if not necessarily in terms of political opinion or positions, but inclusivity in terms of members of the society, gender participation. I'm saying this, of course, with caution that more needs to be done in terms of the real requirements and challenge of inclusiveness. However, what I have seen already was, I think, at least as a starting point, it was very much appreciated, and that also comes as something of a different nature or something that I saw in this experience. Sustainability would be the most important point I'd like to discuss. Sustainability in the sense that we came together yesterday and today. We discussed all of these issues. What do we do next? We need to take this to the next level. We need to start operationalizing the options, the suggestions for solutions that were discussed. Those needs to be taken into action, into concrete measures. Of course, we don't consider ourselves as representatives of the whole Eritrean diaspora communities or even the Eritrean population. We just came together by the good initiative of Focus Eritrea and its partners. So it's also important to try to make this initiative as more broadly inclusive as possible, depending on resources, on and other similar factors. But having said that, I think the main point I need to focus is we need to issue sustainability. We need to maintain the momentum and try to produce something tangible, something concrete from these deliberations we have had.
I'm extremely appreciative of what the Focus Eritrea has done to organize this conference at this very crucial moment in Eritrean history. And I am really grateful that I've been invited to share my views on what we Eritreans in the diaspora can do to really help our people and our country to really get out of this dictatorial regime and establish a democratic country. I have to tell you honestly, it's very rare that I have been to many Eritrean meetings, but I have never remember to have been in such a setting with such high caliber individuals, both Eritreans and non-Eritreans. And so I was really honestly being blown up from my experience in dealing with this and interacting with this high caliber individual. So it was an immense, memorable experience for me. We Eritreans in the diaspora, we have, with no reservation, shown evidence of our commitment to help our country and our people. But we need some a forum where we can exchange views on how we can come together in order to help our people and our country. What Eritrea Focus did was give us this opportunity to exchange views. We all are here because all of us are concerned about our people and our country. And so to be in a group, in a hall, with people who have the same goals and the same objectives for our country, and then exchanging ideas on what we can do together to help our people and our country, this is an amazing opportunity. And I'm so impressed that I was given this opportunity to attend this conference.
I liked the topics that were discussed. There were different items, and I have learned a lot, especially as a young person, as a young Eritrean activist, and who is actively engaged in social media. I have learned the shortcoming of our social medias and how we have to do better. Well, I found it to be a little bit more diverse than other meetings, and the expertise also. Different kind of expertise were involved. That makes it very, very different. Well, for me, the most important part is like in the meeting it was also discussed that empowering people is very important. And what I understand from Eritrea Focus is what they are trying to do is also to empower women, young people, and different people. So Eritrea Focus, I think, from what I've heard also, they will be focusing in empowering people, which is very important in bringing change and the change that we believe in actually.
I have known about Eritrean Focus because more probably for about 2 or 3 years, and I have also come to the House of Parliament. I have attended one of your meetings because I am connected, at least the original people that I have connected with was some of your members, some year of activists, and eventually I think most of you have met you because the job that you guys do is quite a great connection and it's very innovative because that's a territory which no Eritrean has gone before. The conference definitely achieved its objectives, and those objectives probably I will have to define them. I'm sure you guys have defined them, but the way I saw it was you added value, a new dimension to the Eritrean discourse. We are British, most of us, those who live as you guys are. That's why you are interacting with the British political system as British citizens. As British citizens, therefore, so far we have had that legacy of the refugee, the pre-independence era, and therefore every guidance that we had was based on we fighting the Ethiopians, and therefore we need refuge. And as a result of that, therefore, we need protection, and therefore the guys who were leading the liberation movement were also our community leaders. All of a sudden now, since the country has become independent for almost 27 years, although that legacy has continued as if we are in the liberation area, you guys shook us to say, hello, we are British citizens now, and our new government in Eritrea is not doing the job that we expected it to be. Therefore, it's time for us now to be seen as independent Eritrean diaspora community, British citizens who are concerned about their country. That's what this conference achieved for me. Therefore, and with that, the other point which this conference achieved is Eritrea in Britain can also act like the British, outward looking, bringing everyone. Therefore, every Eritrean from every part of the world, you guys invited us together. Therefore, we became hosts as Britain does every part of the world punching above its weight. So we punched above our weight. The third point that I observed here is that the conference was organized professionally, where every person can express their opinion, more or less mirroring the House of Commons, where your opinion doesn't matter as far as you mean good and serving the community, you are one of us. And it was a very professionally organized meeting, and therefore with that, I just felt thank you. But what you will be adding now is more quality than quantity, because we have got several meetings everywhere, but unique, well-organized and objective-oriented meetings that you will add. One, what you will do is you will work on this to make us, to restore our self-confidence as a community, as British citizens of Eritrean origin, who have got MPs who can interact with the British political system, elected, supported the political system, criticize it, and therefore with that, therefore we, all what we ask as residents of the United, or as citizens of the United Kingdom, will therefore be, you, our government, can you please keep attention, use your resources to help the people in Eritrea. Therefore, we are using our electoral muscle, our community muscle, the sympathy that we have from our communities, our neighbors, so that we can take attention to our country. That therefore means, as we stand as a community in the United Kingdom, it means the Eritrean embassy in London does what embassies do. Instead of acting as a community leader, they just do the embassy job, linking the Eritrean government with other governments rather than managing us here. We can manage ourselves as British citizens. That's, I would like you to take that approach, to say, you are British citizens, British community, interact with your MP, interact with your councillor, act that way, and you can use this system to help Eritrea and other countries as well, and therefore the British system allows you. The second point is, Eritrea is at a crossroad. Everything which the Eritrean government has used as to legitimize it have now gone, and it has now become obvious. Many Eritreans coming here as refugees, they shouldn't come as refugees now, because we have got our country for 27 years. We have to have that developing Eritrea rather than running away from it. So, in answering this question, it's not about stopping people or rejecting people who come for asylum. It's about saying, what can we do so that these people will never even think about leaving Eritrea? That means, if Eritrea is a democratic country, if Eritrea is a peaceful country, if Eritrea is a secure country, there is no reason why Eritreans should come. And that's what we can do. That therefore means if Eritreans are coming, there is a government which does not represent them. So far, this government was based on its revolutionary legitimacy. That revolutionary legitimacy took them from 1991 up to 1997 to take us through the setting up provisional government, because there should not be a power vacuum, taking us through the referendum, because we need to say the Eritrean independence is not because few people raised up arms, but the people wanted it. We did that. And then once we have said Eritrea will be an independent country, the third point would be, how is Eritrea going to be governed? And that therefore took us through the constitution, which took us from 1993 to 1997, where we said we want to be Eritrea, therefore we want it to be democratic, we want to be rule-based, we want to be inclusive, and we want to be our government elected by the people, where the people of Eritrea elect their parliamentarians, and the parliament elects the president, which establishes the executive body. And the constitution also becomes the basis of justice for Eritrea with independent courts. More or less, that is what the Eritrean people have demanded, more or less mirroring what we enjoy in Britain, having free courts, lawmaking body, and an executive body. Instead of implementing this, therefore, the government, in leading us through their revolutionary legitimacy, in 1997, the expectation was this revolutionary legitimacy should be replaced by the democratic legitimacy based on the sovereignty of the Eritrean people. Instead of doing this, war has started. I don't want to take you through who started war or that, but that war therefore gave the government, or use it and abuse it by the government, to create a new legitimacy, and that is a national security legitimacy. Sadly, that national security legitimacy, which means we'll fight the Ethiopians to protect our borders, we'll wait the Ethiopians until they leave our border, we'll wait until the international sanctions are lifted. We wasted 20 years from 1998 up to 2018. The Eritrean community was divided during that period. Now, in June, when there was a change of government in Ethiopia, the new government of Ethiopia therefore called the government in Eritrea its bluff, saying, we'll make peace with you. The world also responded, saying, oh, we are not going to give you, there is no sanctions. So which means the government has no legitimacy. So at this stage, therefore, the whole Eritrea is united. The whole Eritrea is united in asking, this government needs to give power to the people in accordance to the constitution. That is where, therefore, Eritrea Focus comes to say, harness this energy, bring us together so that we can be a voice for the Eritrean people. With the coordination of Eritrea Focus, we can establish an Eritrean diaspora leadership, which will be the guardian of the constitution, help its implementation, so that Eritrea can have a legitimate government, and therefore will not have any refugees. What we'll be talking will be not asylum seekers, but people who will be, what can we export to Britain? What can we do for development assistance? And that is what you can do, and I'm sure you will be able to do that.
Yeah, I think like one of the I take a momentum. The momentum is that everybody is now in a phase where we all need to get prepared for a scenario when this regime is no longer in Eritrea. So, and it gives a little bit of optimism and hope that because in the past we lived like we were all pessimistic, and there was no preparation. But I really like that we looked into the different scenarios. What do we need to do before? And how do we need to get prepared? And I really like that. I mean, the peaceful dialogues that people were ready to listen to each other. Timekeeping, of course, because this is one of the biggest challenge we have when we do conferences, workshops. We don't keep the time. There is a lot of frustration, and I find here it was really well moderated also. Yeah, I mean, what I like, we had also on the first day a number of presentation of people who are now like Dan Connell and reporting about field, especially to be a researcher nowadays. To research on Eritrea is very difficult, so because you have no access. But because they travel regularly to Ethiopia and talk to refugees, so the information they provided was very very interesting for us. I think this is what I really most enjoyed. Yeah, what I would like maybe to see more is the diversity issue. There need to be a little bit of reflection about diversity, how to integrate and bring in more diverse group of Eritrea, youth, women, other marginalized groups. This is something I would really like to see happening in the future. And then maybe also if another workshop or conference to take place, maybe we should have more of a participatory approach. So in order to give them audience or the participants to determine also what topics should be discussed. I don't know. I mean, I don't think you can prepare for that. But at least it should be possible that we have consultation meeting. We should be definitely talking to each other. We should keep talking. We should not stop at this point. That's what I would urge. But there is no. I mean, look what had happened in Sudan. They were not prepared. I mean, people started a revolution and it happened. They're not prepared. They were not. I think if you ask them 3 months ago, or I don't know when the revolution started, 6 months ago, I don't think they knew this change will happen. The same in Ethiopia. Important is that we have now the chance, the opportunity that something is happening in our. We have to prepare. So something is happening in our region. So we need to prepare for this.